All right, so let's bring you to this now. Civic organizations and affected families are calling for Tiger Brands to take responsibility for the 2017-2018 listeriosis outbreak. They briefed the media this afternoon. The outbreak claimed the lives of over 200 people. Now, for more on the story, we now bring in our reporter, Hasina Gori, who is monitoring developments. Hasina, good afternoon to you. Of course, this is one of those stories that gripped the nation several years ago. Of course, we know that this family briefing comes off the back of the legal or new evidence that the lawyers of the families are now saying there is explosive evidence that implicates Tiger Brands, specifically in this case. Just talk to us about what this new evidence is pointing to.
So, as you mentioned, new evidence that have been coming out over the last few days. This comes at the back of this being 6 years since the serious outbreak happened and completely concluded by the Gauteng Health Department or the National Health Department at that time. And what we found now is that in January 2024, that the NICD, through its labs, found that the strain of listeriosis, which was ST6, it's one of the strains that they found in the patients, were also found exclusively in the enterprise facilities that were producing that ready-to-eat polony, which is at the center of this public health outbreak that we know. The polony that was consumed by people that led to them then contracting listeriosis. From what they've seen now, 6 years on, they can almost 90% certainly put the blame at Tiger Brands. And that's what they're now saying, that they have enough evidence that the trial that is currently still at pre-trial stage, that there's enough evidence to show that Tiger Brands should take responsibility. They're saying that Tiger Brands' actions post and prior to them being implicated in this matter has shown that they've done reckless behavior, that they've taken no accountability. They're not even accepted that they are the cause of the almost 200 people or more than 200 people that had died. According to Tiger Brands, they accept that they are responsible for some deaths, but not all the deaths at this stage, which is what is also really hindering the process that we're seeing currently. So the families, as well as civic organizations, really calling on Tiger Brands to do the right thing, to be accountable and to not wind this up even further in legal battles.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands now, this legal team is behind this class lawsuit, representing more than 1,000 family members. I would imagine then during this briefing, not all family members were there, but just talk to us some of the, sentiments that were shared by families. I would imagine 6 years and still no answers, no accountability from Tiger Brands, as you say.
Quite an emotional, one of the plaintiffs, the main plaintiff, she is a female. She was pregnant at the time when she consumed this polony, and she has given birth to a child who is 6 years old. Her child now has educational and mental challenges, has cerebral palsy. Her child contracted listeriosis at 18 days of age. That was when she found out that she had listeriosis as well. She did not know at the time when she was pregnant that she had contracted listeriosis. When she had given birth, her child was not well. Her child has had 6 stents been put into her brain since the time she was born. She described their health, account, the money that have been spent. They had to sell their home to be able to afford for her child's, ongoing and future, sicknesses that she's going to have. She explained how her child is 6 and going into normal schooling, but cannot do so because she swells herself. She does not have any confidence. This child has learning difficulties, but also her as the mum. When she was pregnant, she lost blood flow to both her hips. She now needs double hip amputations. She goes through severe pain from this. So lifelong issues. You mentioned 1,000 people, and they just gave us some of the stories. Over 200 women lost their children from contracting listeriosis when they were pregnant. These are vulnerable groups of people who had immunocompromised already, and some of them having meningitis, some having lung defects. So these are just some of the issues that have come from them consuming what is a staple in many homes. Every one of us can go at least once a month eating polony, and they consume this, which is a meal that is a substitute for protein in many homes. It's cheap, it's ready to prepare, and they never expected that when they consumed that meat, from a reputable source, from a factory that is a reputable brand, international, quite large, that they will then have this sickness that has now impacted some of them unable to work, some of them losing livelihoods, needing caregivers at this stage. And when you have this amount of claims that are coming out and the factory or the company not taking accountability, it is a cause for concern. Because if this had been a public service or public health, this was Isidimeni. We'd be calling for justice. The only difference at this stage is this is a private entity versus a public entity.
And that's the thing, right? We don't see the same level of accountability that is needed to be, shown by big corporates. We don't see it at a big business point of view. But just talking about the next steps. Of course, we know that this particular factory in Polokwane has since closed down. We know that this listeriosis outbreak was the largest that has ever been seen in this country. So what now? What are the lawyers saying, given the fact that, of course, as you say, Tiger Brands didn't even look at the new evidence, we're told, but also is just not wanting to be held accountable?
So right now, the legal process, which is 6 years on, is still ongoing. They're at pre-trial conference from the lawyers that we spoke with today and some of the senior counsel. They explained the process to us. They have now said that Tiger Brands is in those meetings. They're there with their own lawyers. They're represented. But also that this matter, Tiger Brands has its own insurer. So the insurer is acting out in that interest as well. And it is the interest of the insurer to ensure that this does not go to litigations, that they do not have to pay out. That money is there. It is available. It's in the billions. It is at this point most probably, collecting interest at this point. But the longer this takes, the longer justice is served. But we're told by the lawyers of the plaintiffs that they are very close to concluding the pre-trial conference. And once that is done and all the disclosures are handed out to all the parties, that a date will be set for trial and hopefully for the families that will ensure that justice is served. But what we're hearing from families, from civic organizations, but also the legal team, that given the wealth of evidence that's out there that points to listeriosis and listeria, the bacteria being found only in Enterprise. According to the NICD, they had done tests to all meat factories at that time. That specific strain was only found at Enterprise in Polokwane. And once the polony was recalled and that product was recalled, there was no outbreak of listeriosis since, which points to that 90%, almost 93% of the cases being from the source. That Tiger Brands should not go the legal route, that they should give an apology, come to some kind of settlement. And while they're waiting for the court processes, maybe for the cases where they feel that they were negligible and that they are responsible, to conclude that. But right now they're claiming that they're just tied in legal innuendos and legal battles at this stage.
And unfortunately, at the the other side of that are concerned families who just want justice, particularly concerning, of course, with the children that have been affected here. Hasina, thank you so much for putting light on this particular story. Hasina Gori there for us, and we'll continue, of course, to monitor this situation in as far as the listeriosis case is concerned.